How not to live within a society, defining the edge of human flaws in society. Title: How not to live within a society, defining the edge of human flaws in society. The streets are lined with individuals, each living in their own world, yet simultaneously connected to the masses. But what happens when the lines between isolation and togetherness become blurred? When the characteristics that make us human, like empathy, kindness, and self-awareness, start to wear off, like the edge of a well-worn figurine. Living within a society implies interacting, acknowledging, and accepting others. Yet, how often do we see individuals choosing to ignore, dismiss, or even attack others, just to assert their own dominance or satisfy their egos? We see it on the news, in our communities, and even in our relationships. Is it possible that the very society we live in, with its complex web of social norms and expectations, contributes to the erosion of our humanity? Consider the concept of the lonely crowd, coined by sociologist David Reisman in 1950. It describes a society where people are encouraged to be well-adjusted, conformist, and outwardly happy, while hiding their true feelings and emotions. This ideology not only ignores the complexities of human nature, but also promotes a culture of superficial connections and inadequate emotional intelligence. Closely related to this idea is the concept of narcissism, a trait often attributed to those who excessively focus on their appearance, their belongings, or their status. By prioritizing individual desires above all else, these individuals tend to neglect their relationships, responsibilities, and even their own well-being. But what about those of us who aren't dealing with overt narcissism, but rather a more subtle and insidious influence, the expectations of social media? Platforms that once held so much promise connecting us with others, amplifying our voices, and sharing our experiences have now taken on a life of their own. They influence how we present ourselves, how we interact with others, and even how we measure our self-worth. And in doing so, they often prioritize self-promotion over self-reflection, community building over individualism, and information gathering over thoughtful consideration. But it's not all doom and gloom. History has shown us that social movements and revolutionary thinkers have long spoken out against the norms of their time, pushing for a more empathetic, inclusive, and just society. From the civil rights movement to modern-day activism, there is a wealth of examples where collective action has brought about meaningful change. Or consider the world of fiction, where stories often serve as a reflection of our own experiences and those of those around us. Take, for instance, the dystopian literature and films that depict a world where individuality has been lost to the collective, or where conformity has been elevated above all else. In works like 1984 and The Handmaid's Tale, we see representations of a society where people are reduced to mere shadows of their true selves, where humanity has been compromised for the sake of power, control, and efficiency. These narratives offer us a mirror to reflect on our own existence and, more importantly, to consider what we value most. In these stories, we see that the greatest threat to human connection lies not in external forces, but within ourselves, in our own willingness to sacrifice empathy, compassion, and genuine relationships for the ease and familiarity of our everyday routines. It's an uncomfortable truth, one that implies that, as individuals and as a collective, we have the power to shape or erode the values of our society, to build bridges or reinforce barriers between us. So, how not to live within a society that slowly chips away at our humanity? It begins by opening our eyes to the subtle yet insidious ways this occurs, by acknowledging the complex interplay between individual desires and collective norms, and and by making a conscious effort to assert our own humanity in the face of an ever-evolving, ever-changing world. The choice to do so, however, ultimately rests with each of us. Sometimes the most difficult conversations occur within ourselves, perhaps more so than those we have with others. Where do you draw the line between acceptance and complicity?